Pakistan's approach towards Afghanistan did not emerge overnight. It was shaped over decades by advice, pressure, and repeated assurances that openness would eventually bring stability. That approach is now being questioned, not because of theory or ideology, but because of outcomes. For decades, Pakistan has been told that keeping the border open, encouraging trade, and promoting people-to-people contact would somehow soften Afghan behavior and reduce violence. We tried that approach longer than almost any country would have. We traded since 1947, we opened transit routes, hosted refugees, absorbed economic and security costs, and kept hoping that engagement would produce moderation. It didn't. Violence kept coming, militant groups kept finding space across the border, and Pakistan kept paying the price. At some point, experience has to matter more than theory. That is why the decision to close the western border until the Taliban provide a written guarantee against supporting or sheltering terrorists is not extreme. It is overdue. No serious state fight militancy at home while keeping its border economically open to the very space from which that militancy operates. Pakistan has done that for years, and the result is clear. Engagement without leverage produced nothing except ambiguity, denial, and excuses. Much of the disagreement comes from a misunderstanding of what cross-border trade actually represents. And we need to be honest about this so-called trade with Afghanistan. A large portion of it has never been normal documented commerce. It is under-invoiced goods, re-exports that leak back into Pakistan, fuel and electronics smuggling, narcotics flow, and informal taxation by armed actors along the border. This system does not strengthen Afghan society, it sustains a war economy. Militants don't need ideology alone to survive. They need cash, logistics, and access. Open borders provide all three. Calling this peace-building trade does not make it so. The most common objection to border closure is humanitarian. But that argument deserves closer inspection. Trade has not changed behavior in 75 years. What Pakistan has not tried is sustained economic denial. This is not about punishment for its own sake. It's about forcing a cost-benefit calculation that has never existed before. As long as Pakistan remained the easiest trade corridor and economic lifeline, there was no incentives for Afghan power centers to rein in groups targeting Pakistan. Border closure introduced that incentive. Then, there is the people-to-people contact argument, which sounds good but collapses under scrutiny. Pakistan has hosted around 3.7 million Afghans over 4 decades. Entire generations grew up here. If proximity and social contact were enough to fix relations, we would have seen results by now. Instead, militant networks recruited, financing moved through refugee-dense areas, and trust eroded further. How much more contact is required before we admit that this assumption simply doesn't hold in this case? At the core of this debate is a flawed understanding of how diplomacy works with militant actors. Diplomacy without leverage is another comforting illusion. You do not negotiate goodwill with militant actors. You negotiate from pressure. For them, endless dialogue is not compromise. It is delay. It buys time, preserves deniability, and tests the other side's resolve. A written guarantee tied to border reopening is not unreasonable. It is the minimum any state would demand. And without enforcement mechanisms, words mean nothing. Some worry that closing the border will isolate eastern Afghanistan economically. Well, that precisely is the point. Border economies there thrive on instability. They empower armed groups, not institutions. Let Afghan trade shift west and south. Let other routes carry the burden. Pakistan is not blocking Afghanistan's access to the world. It is refusing to remain in the highway of its own destabilization. A weaker war economy in eastern Afghanistan may finally force internal recalculations that decades of engagement never did. And finally, even the strongest policy fails if it is applied hesitantly. This policy will only work if it is consistent. A temporary closure will be tested and outweighed. A serious policy requires patience and resolve, even if that means years, not months. Pakistan has tried openness, generosity, and dialogue. None of it delivered security. Closing the border is not cruelty or hostility. It is strategic realism. For the first time, Pakistan is aligning its economic policy with its security interests. That coherence is long overdue. And abandoning it now would simply repeat the same mistakes while expecting a different outcome.